Peace to the saints. If you'd be kind enough to confirm that we have excellent audio and video and that the audio is coming from this microphone. Today's topic, we are discussing the following. Trump has become a dictator. And in addition, we're considering the escalating conflict between Russia and another country that will remain unnamed. Why is it unnamed? Because when you put those two terms together, the YouTube platform controlled by the Google Corporation, which is a censorship corporation, they then will suppress you. If you were, in fact, to Google Trump dictator, you'll find that there aren't very many results. It's not because people aren't thinking it. It's not because academics haven't identified it, but rather it is because we are living in 1984, and there's collusion between the media and the government. This is not new. However, the scale and the nature is unprecedented. You must be brave today, and you must also be able to see what is coming before it arrives. You'd be a fool to think that all of a sudden people start goose stepping and doing, as they like to call it, the Roman salute, euphemistically. No, no, no. These things gather and accumulate. And before you know it, it's too big to deal with. Mind you, we have a great number of mentally ill persons in the chat, which is not new, and I invite any one of you to come on. They never do, as most of them are mentally ill, but a significant portion of them are actually bots. And that is what is new. You'll hear commentators talk about how to recognize a dictatorship and what they'll do, because these are simple-minded persons, though they be academics. Being one who is lettered does not equal intelligence, though it is a good proxy often. However, they look to the past, trying to understand today and tomorrow. The past is a indicator at some level, but there's so many things that are new. Technology has advanced so much. So the dictator in 2025 will look a lot different than the dictator in 1935. So mind you, any of the persons, white supremacists, skittle guzzlers who are in the chat, do not say anything negative in my chat. Just request for the link to join on. I'll bring you on. We can speak face to face. All I ask is you not be vulgar and that you turn on your camera. Otherwise, I will empower my moderators to very quickly remove these persons from my chat. And again, I encourage you to be aggressive in life in general. So please waste no moment. Anyways, the bots in the chat are an example. And these are not human beings. These are bots. That's why they never come on screen. They're bots. They're not actual human beings. They're AI. They're creations. And what happens is the likes of an Elon Musk, who is a white supremacist, racist, South African foreigner, whom we should surely send back. The Elon Musk, the technocrat, they multiply their voice by using their advanced technologies, not only the social media platform, but also the chat bots that make it seem as though their perspective is more common than it really is. Someone said the obvious in the chat. He says, this channel is being suppressed hard. Duh. Duh. Yes, they demonetized me, took a huge sum of money out of my pocket, even did it retroactively. So they took the money I'd already worked for a month that my team had worked to earn, and they stopped all earnings moving forward. They shadow banned me some time ago. This is not new, but the real question is, what will the people do? And surely I've perhaps made a miscalculation in as much as I've always had a good life since 12 years old, since I started hustling. I've had a good life. It really hasn't been in my self-interest to try to help people. It has only hurt me. So, and I noticed this very clearly when I spoke out on behalf of people who were being oppressed. And then there were millions of folks saying, keep going, you're doing the right thing. But then when I get shadow banned or I get my income cut hugely, they disappear. They're not there to support you. This is the nature of the world. This is the nature of humankind. This is why I recommend to you the Book of Dark Truths. You'll understand things better. You'll be able to navigate more effectively. And most importantly, you'll be able to protect yourself. And you have some persons who, like this gentleman here, he's oversimplifying. No, not him. This guy right here. He's oversimplifying. You see, it's not quite that simple. No, they're not the people who created the transatlantic enslavement. They're not the people who eliminated the Native Americans such that you can roam America endlessly for 30 years and not see one of them. Millions upon millions dead. They're not the people who went and colonized all of Africa except one country. Let us not try to blame the ills of the entire planet Earth on one group of people. Have they done wrong? You better believe it. But let's be honest, that's yet another trick. Those two groups that did that, they're one and the same. They are one and the same. Come on now. And mind you, I might have to create some new moderators. Are you a moderator on the channel? You are? Get this guy out of here right here. And anyone who has any objections, again, I invite you on to come and have a conversation. I want you all in the chat to notice something. It's very consistent. You have people who are detractors, but they detract with lies. And the goal of an Elon Musk, a Donald Trump, a Bibi Netanyahu is what they'll do is they'll gather up their bots and they'll push out a certain messaging. And you never actually contend with the message because their goal is not to come into the public sphere and discuss it, but rather to propagate the lie. Yes, that's all they're doing is propagating the lie. That's it. Anyways, let's go ahead and get to this work. I'm going to start, as I always encourage you all to follow one of our maxims. Show love to those who show love to you. May I acknowledge Joshua? He came in much earlier via PayPal. He writes, appreciate the business lessons as always. God bless and peace to the saints. I appreciate you. And there has been someone who created an official fan channel. I believe it's called Marquette on Business. Highly recommended. We talk nothing but business on that channel. And you'll see that these fan channels are popping up, and I'll let you know which ones I think are ones to, take a look at. Marquette on Business is definitely one of them. There's another one called Marquette for Women. That's one to check out as well. And these are specific topic focused channels. I also acknowledge Minix Store writes, tuition going through your videos, how to achieve a wealth goal, 14-day sprint, acting on it now. Thank you. I believe that's actually in Boss University, for those of you who are smart enough to get that course. I acknowledge Miles. He writes, peace of the saints. My full message is sent via email. Okay, I'll take a look at that. Shout out to Patrick, came in via PayPal. Appreciate your efforts there. And let's see if I can find that email. The gentleman comes in via PayPal. Miles, he writes, Mr. Burton, what are your thoughts on Trump and Hegseth having an emergency meeting in Quantico with all of the military generals? I do think Trump is attempting to be a dictator and will definitely try to do something to gain a third term. Could another attempt on his life be in the works? Well, there would have to have been a first attempt on his life, which I do not believe occurred. I believe that was theater. And we'd all be fools to believe that the government does not create theater. And this wouldn't be new. This wouldn't be like cutting edge to try to fool the people or to create or utilize certain symbols. We know that life and death and assassination attempts, they may draw in your base more closely. They allow you to demonize your enemies and act like there's a bigger threat than really exists. There's a boogeyman. All very useful tactics. There was one particular speech Fidel Castro was giving, and then a dove landed on him. And do you think that was by chance? Do you think that was a real thing? No, these things are orchestrated. And I don't say that as anyone who particularly dislikes Fidel Castro. I admire his accomplishments, but I'm too intelligent to not realize when there's an act and a script going on. The average person, unfortunately, is nearly brain dead, and with the quality or lack thereof of American education, you really can fool them quite easily. Furthermore, you have a significant portion of the United States believing in, belief systems that are obsolete, to say the least. Um, you know, people behave as though voodoo is ridiculous, but they believe in their own particular form of voodoo. And as a result, we have a significant portion of the population and as well the government who can't really form a rational thought. So, you know, do I believe he's trying to be a dictator? Well, the evidence is all there. And I want you all to also know this. Unlike most commentators or many political scientists, I am not a person who believes that a dictatorship is necessarily a bad thing. A dictatorship is only bad when the dictator is low quality. And unfortunately, that happens a lot. If you were to ask me, what do I think of Francois Duvalier in Haiti? I thought he was a phenomenal dictator. I thought he did a great job at maintaining some level of sovereignty for Haiti, playing off two hegemons, the Soviet Union and the United States. I thought he was really a brilliant statesman who died in office, which is a heck of a trick in the context of the Haitian political jungle. So he did all right. Even if you look at Fidel Castro in Cuba, he did a phenomenal job as a dictator who was on the flank of a superpower that was unfriendly. He did a phenomenal job. And there are other dictators that we can speak to who have done an all right job. Then there are those who are extraordinarily destructive and violent and aggressive. And that is why that form of government, which is what it is, it's a form of government. That's why it has such a dirty name. Now, Donald Trump, no doubt, would like to emulate the likes of a Adolf Hitler. Yes, that's what he would like to be. The problem is that he doesn't have Adolf Hitler level training, skills, intelligence, and instincts. And so as a result, he's like a ragged version of said person. One great example, very comical, is a typical thing of the dictator is the military parade. It's a showpiece for the nation state because the dictatorship is a masculine, alpha, aggressive, showboat type of regime. So you must have the military parade show off the big missiles and all of the advanced weaponry. And in our case, we tried it, but it didn't quite look right because we're kind of missing the practice, so to speak. If you look at the North Koreans, you see their columns beautiful and harmonic. You look at the Chinese, you see them very orderly and uniform. You look at the tapes from the goose-stepping Germans or the well-trained Italians, though not very effective in battle. They all look great. You look at the American military parade under Donald Trump, and the soldiers walk so casually. It doesn't have the parade ground appearance. Maybe our soldiers might be better fighters, but they don't know how to put on the show. They don't have the propaganda skills of the dictator playbook. Where was his Joseph Goebbels to organize things? So he tried the military parade, which is not a typical thing in American political life, looked like an utter fool. I trust that the rest of the world, especially the actual dictatorships, were laughing at him. But, he's getting his practice in. Even, Adolf had to get his practice in. If you study him, you'll see how he evolved over time, became more confident, more effective, more sure of himself. And unlike Adolf, Donald Trump, and this is typical of American presidents, they're draft dodgers. They avoid the military. They don't actually want to put on a pair of boots and be deployed. They just want to play soldier. They don't want to be a soldier. They'll settle for playing soldier. But different, Adolf Hitler actually was a soldier. In fact, he had a dangerous job of being a message carrier on the front lines. And in fact, he so much wanted to be a soldier that he was Austrian by birth. And he decided to go into the German military, which was technically not his country. And while he was in the military, he was awarded with the Iron Cross for bravery. I believe he was gassed and caused him to temporarily go blind. And then following that, he actually worked for the military. He was supposed to infiltrate, and that's precisely how he became part of what came to be known as the Nationalsozialistisches Deutsches Arbeiterspartei. So he actually has been in war, seen action, and was awarded. Now, granted, he was no military hero like Goering, but he saw some action and he was respected. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who's not seeing any action. Big difference there. So then Adolf Hitler actually really had a star team around him. And you would think Trump knows a lot about team, but his team is filled with Skittle guzzlers, yes, deviants of the sexual variety, women, yes, half-wits, come on, people who have citizenship in other countries, yes, family members or people married to family members, old friends from business. He didn't put together a dream team of people who are very competent, which is the false idea of meritocracy that our alt-right promotes. Oh, we want a meritocracy. We don't want DEI. Now, I don't want DEI either. But we must concede that DEI has always been a thing. Most recently, DEI benefited liberal white women. Yes. Before that, DEI benefited white men. At no point has DEI had the major beneficiary be the 12% of the population, the blacks. That has not happened. The data does not support that in actual fact. I say this as one who is neither liberal nor conservative. I'm sane. I follow this thing we call Marquettism. And I'll tell you, we're in a challenging position today. The reason we're in a challenging position is because the liberals are utter psychopaths. They subject our children to filth. The people on the right are right next to the liberals. There's barely a separation. They're both racist. They're both sexually perverted. They both sell out to foreign countries. They're both war hawks. What's the difference? So I step away from party politics. Marquettism is for the kids. Marquettism saves lives. Yes. How do you? I think I might have pulled out my mic. Give me a second. Sorry about that. Confirm that you can hear me. Alpha 1 in the chat. I'll give you some time. And while folks are moving slowly, I'll go ahead and acknowledge some more of what folks are saying. Gentleman writes, I do think Trump is attempting to be a dictator and will definitely try to do something to gain a third term. Could another attempt on his life be in the works? No, I don't think so. Not currently. But if he does make a strong go at that third term, there will be attempts. And that's typical, though. That comes with the office in general, and that comes with attempting a coup in particular. Because if he's going to make a third attempt on a term, there'll be a coup. But here, let me cue something up for you guys. Okay, says the audio has a slight echo now. Appreciate that. That was very insightful. See, you might have switched mics. No. So we're still on the same mic. Is anyone else hearing an echo? No? Okay, I appreciate you. Fantastic. Hear a slight echo. That's bizarre. That is bizarre. Huh. No one else hearing an echo? Let's see. It's sounding good? Okay, cool. Yeah, let's get back to work then. Let's get back to work. So anyways, with the structure of the American government, the different branches, it will be an unusual coup. It will be a coup from within. There is no doubt that America has needed a revolution. Is Trump a revolutionary? No, sir. He is one who has fooled you. He was the better of two evil choices. He was friends with all of the politicians. How did you think he was there to clean the swamp when he himself, in fact, is the swamp? He told us he'd make America rich. I think he meant I'll make myself rich and my buddies, and I'll use the government as my tool. Where will the money come from? Anywhere I can get it. From the American people, from other countries, from immigrants, from anywhere, from social programs, from Social Security, from senior citizens, from your kids' future, anywhere we can get it. All of the things he accused Biden and Biden's crime family of doing, he's doing. And he has a team. His team is not as good as the Third Reich, but his team is pretty damn good. Elon Musk is a part of it, but here's the issue. Elon is a rogue. Clearly, Elon and one particular country, which cannot be named and cannot be criticized, they both have something on the Donald. Donald, that man who is so brash, aggressive, and thoughtless, all of a sudden becomes so careful when he's talking about a particular group of people. So careful with Elon Musk, who has disrespected him, embarrassed him, insulted him in the public sphere. We know that Elon knows what that certain country knows about Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is guilty as the day is long. And the American people are in a long slumber. Yes, a long slumber. Will they wake up? What will it take? I'm very doubtful. I'm doubtful that the American people will wake up. I thought when California started to allow your children's bodies to be mutilated by people they call doctors, but I call devils, I thought then the adults, the people would have woke up. No. When they started levying heavy taxes on every dollar, tax the dollar once, tax it twice, and maybe we would have woke up. No. Well, if they didn't wake up for all that, maybe when the government started to come into your homes and become the man of your house, yes, the government became the man of your house, dictating what shall happen. Alimony there, child support there. I thought maybe men would stand up. No. So they won't stand up on their own. They won't get it together in their minds to stand up. Do you understand that the dictatorship in this era looks different? The revolution even looks different. Here's how the dictatorship looks. There's one leader, and we can't tell if he's popular because we don't go outside. And we don't gather in large spaces that used to be called churches or parks, or the movie theater or the skating rink. We don't gather in large numbers. Our communities have been broken apart. So we go on the internet and we see all these people saying, "Hail Trump, hail Elon." And it seems like a lot of people, so we think, okay, everything's fine. Everyone agrees. Those are not real people. Those are not real profile photos. Those are not real profiles. Those are not real sentiments. Those are not real supporters. It's all fake. But how could you possibly know? AI is smarter than half of you watching me right now. Come on now. AI is merely the thinking capacity of the average person. That's about what it is. Yes? Come on. So you won't be able to tell who's popular, who's unpopular, what the true sentiment are of the people around you because you are separated. Come on. And then when one would rise up, it's so easy to make them disappear. You might not have to take their life. You might not have to even take their money. Just take their voice. Yes? And if you can't take their voice, drown out their voice with many other voices. Or spread filth and lies that cannot be substantiated, but they need it be substantiated. As long as enough people can repeat the lie. Come on now. Come on now. Let's talk about it. Let me acknowledge what some of the folks are saying. We haven't even gotten in. We're just warming up. We're just warming up here. That's all. We haven't even done any real work yet. Shout out to Jabrizi with the what comes after quadruple? Quintuple? Who knows? The baller alert. He writes, to help pay for the employees at the Assassin. Man, listen to me. I encourage all of you to get the Book of Dark Truths and follow it. Don't be like me. Don't try to help people. You help people, then they disappear on you. Yes? You speak up. I spoke up on behalf of the Palestinians and the Muslims. then where do they go? They don't support. They don't send in they don't send in $1 to support me. I have a fortune taken from me, and then they all disappear. Get the Book of Dark Truths and follow it. And follow it. Come on now. We're going to get deep today, ladies and saints. Yes, indeedy. But these times, I really appreciate these times in life, and I'll tell you why. I love to know who my real friends and family are. I do. And we have a great number of live sessions that have been made private that I'm going to share with the members. If you're a member at thesassin.com, THESASN.com, if you're not already, go there, click join. We got a couple pieces of content that are exclusive and you'll love them. One I did was, are your friends actually your friends? And I really elaborate on that because that's one of the most important things you need to be able to figure out in your life. I talk about that extensively in my book, The Black Box. Highly recommend it because your relationships will be a tool for your own happiness, but also for your advancement. And the wrong relationships will undo you. They will cause you to suffer. So pay attention. Yes, indeed. So these are great times. These are great times. We get to separate out the fake from the real. May I acknowledge and shout out to all the folks standing up supporting the work, especially at a time like this. Shout out to Miss Quick. Comes in by Venmo, writes peace to the saints. Yes, indeed, peace to the saints. Shout out to Charlie. Writes tuition for the recent business live. Absolutely. I acknowledge Anthony Invest. Writes peace to the saints. This is going to be a good one. Oh, indeed. And we ain't even really started cooking right now. We just started turning on the stove. Shout out to Issachar supporting the work. Writes peace to the saints. Came in by Venmo. May I also acknowledge Austin. Writes peace to the saints. Shout out to the real ones. Shout out to Mr. Naeem. Always consistent. Writes peace to the saints. What a blessing that we have the big homie steeped in the book of dark truths. Marquettism saves kids. Marquettism saves lives. Marquettism is for the kids. Marquettism saves lives. Appreciate you. Shout out to the real ones. And let us keep all the branding consistent because we have so much work to do, ladies and saints. We have so much work to do, so many people to reach. I acknowledge Patrick. He writes, news source stating tomahawks are off the table days before recent White House statements. Will Trump actually authorize them or is considering a stalling tactic for now? Listen, the sad thing that we have to deal with is that the news is not the news anymore. Have you guys not noticed that half the time the news is just there guessing and speculating at what might happen? Why? Because the nature of news has changed radically. Back in the day, did you know that TV used to go off? Yes, allowed you to have time with your family, have a meal without the noise of the idiot box, the boob tube blaring. Did you know the TV used to go off? And there was no social media. There was only human connection. There was word of mouth. There were neighborhoods, churches. There was human contact, friendship, relationships. There was a thing called love, trust, honesty, loyalty, respect. All of those things have gone away largely. But during that time, because TV would turn off and there was just a couple programs on the television, there was not so much space and time to fill. There was not so much money to chase. And the news reported the things that were important. And they also reported it truthfully or accurately, more so than now. You never got the complete truth because then that would, that'd have to be the God speaking directly to you, right? Not humankind. But you got news that was actually news. It wasn't speculation. It wasn't guessing. It wasn't debate. It wasn't commentary. It wasn't so much propaganda. Whereas today, the news is supposed to be what happens, what's happening, not what might happen. The media has been written about as the fourth branch of government in a classic work. I do believe it's on my Amazon list. You go to amazon.com/shop/The Saint and the Sinner. I have a number of works that I recommend, books, foundational works. The media was called the fourth branch of government decades ago. Imagine how embedded the media is with the government and the ruling class. Scary, really. I say that to say, nowadays, I don't even really want to consider what the news is saying until I've heard it many places and it's been confirmed to have happened, because sometimes I suspect that the news is just being used to gauge how the public will react to something so that the dictator can decide if he's going to take the action. So it's just a tester to see if the public is warmed up enough. It's a test. If you study Napoleon Bonaparte, there was a time that he and his family were about to make an attempt on taking power, and he was a bit premature. And then his brother saved the day and drew a sword and said, if my brother, referring to Napoleon, was going to take over, I myself would run him through, which was a lie. He was just protecting his brother. Book of Dark Truths. And they realized that the time was not right. They were too early. And this is not unusual. There have been many times like this. For example, the putsch in Germany when Hitler was trying to take over. It was too early, landed him in Landsberg prison. Conversely, Mussolini, when he went to take things over, which was more figurative, I don't think anyone died. Someone let me know. Let's see how good you are with history. The power was given to him. The time was right. The moment was right. I say all that to say this. I believe that the news is used strategically, almost as a poll. Yes, it's used like a real-time Gallup poll to check sentiment, to see if they're ready for the aggressive action, to see if they'll bend over and take it. That's what the news is for. And I can remind you all that Vladimir Putin is no monster. Sometimes I wish he were more of a monster, because unfortunately power only yields to power. And with him being so soft and the Russian regime being so weak, the Western devils take inch by inch away from a regime that represents what we used to be. Russia today, religious country, Russian Orthodox Church, still has meaning there. What church has meaning here? This place, supposedly created by the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. Which of these Protestants are still Protestants, i.e. Christians? None of them. Come on now. Come on. Come on. Which of them follow the Bible? How Christian can Donald Trump be? What is Scott Bessent's sexual, they call it a preference. Is it a preference? His behavior, whatever you want to call it. How Christian can Trump be? Really, a slap in the face to the American white man has fallen so far to the point where they don't know who they are. They don't know who they are. They think Trump is the white male, alpha male savior. I surmise that if we went back quite a few decades to, as they call it, the men who built this country, and you say, hey, the president today, his right-hand man is barely a man and also likes another man. What do you think of that? I don't think they'd condone it. I don't think they'd condone it. Their forefathers would not condone their behavior today. Come on now. They're lost. But I can assure you all that we needn't look to the past for a guide on how to be. We need to look to something new. We need a new way today. Yes. Acknowledge Frank writes, tuition came in by PayPal. Shout out to Dimitri. He writes, peace of the saints. Which woman is better for a man? The one who would do anything for you, even sell herself if you'd ask her to, or the one who would do almost everything but degrade herself in such ways because her moral compass is higher than the prior said one? The woman who'll do anything for you is the one that you want. The other one is not for you. Shout out to Seven. He writes, a couple lives ago, you noted how conservatives proclaim that they are pro-life, yet they also push the death penalty. I am in awe of your ability to notice logical inconsistencies in every aspect of life. There are none like you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And even those who might be able to think on this level, of which there are a few, they surely will not take the actions. You see, that is the problem, is that the intelligentsia, they are intelligent enough, connected enough to thrive financially in the society. Hence, they don't want to change anything because things are working out well for them, which was my foolish thinking. I should have been more selfish. I wanted to do some good for peoples who are being slaughtered in certain parts of the world and people who are being oppressed here in our backyard. And I'm not a liberal at all by any means. I just think that we should all get a fair shot at success. And for that, I have had my fortune devastated. I've lost a lot of opportunities. And I think be good to yourself is something that I overlooked one too many times. I don't recommend it. And so I thank you for the compliment. May I acknowledge 7? He writes, okay, I actually just acknowledged that one. Oh, he came back. He writes, in Hit 'Em Up, Tupac claimed that he had intercourse with Biggie's wife and essentially said he wasn't player. Is it possible to get your woman taken if you're truly a player? Absolutely, because many women are completely irrational creatures. That's why they're so dangerous. You see, in the space of a month, they are 4 different persons according to the science. And you might not be familiar with one of those persons, and one of those persons might not like you. And as I've said many times before, that the day you say something, you say the wrong thing, maybe the mailman might say the right thing. Fools will tell you things like, oh, pursue your purpose, get your money, as though that provides you some security. Your money's not even secure. So how could something that's not secure you a woman? It's silliness. So no one is exempt from contempt, number 1. No one is too fly to die, number 2. And number 3, your woman could be taken by Drake or the mailman. Depends on the day, depends on the context, depends on the situation. I mean, just imagine, there are people who are married for 20 years and their wife decides that they don't want to be married anymore. The overwhelming majority of divorces are brought by females. They're fairly unreliable creatures. They don't even know what makes them happy or satisfied. Precisely why we need a lot of the laws to be removed. We need the government out of homes, and then we will see the birth rate recover. But until then, you will see a continuous situation whereby females are overly empowered to their own detriment. Shout out to Isaiah, writes, peace of the saints. Shout out to Isaiah, came in supporting the work. I also acknowledge Alvin. He writes, peace of the saints. I've made significant investments in myself this year via courses and practicum. That was number 1. And then number 2, how can one overcome the uncertainty that comes with doing something new and starting from the bottom? It's very timely that you asked me this because I'm doing a lot of new things right now. And it's actually not my personality. I don't like to do new things. It's really not my soul. My soul is of routine. It's of repetition. It's of improvement. But it's not of let's try something new. Hell nah. But it is what must be done if you want to get to the top, if you want to be the best, if you want to be unstoppable, because the wicked, their war strategy upon you, whether it's your psyche or your circumstances, they'll observe and try to get a sense of you, sense of your patterns, a sense of your psychological makeup, and they'll try to destabilize you. They'll take away your routines. They'll take away your support system. They'll take away your income. And some people fall apart never to recover. But me, I'm not a one-hit wonder. I'm a super hustler. And so I'll go back to the drawing board. I'll find a new way to make something happen, because here's the reality. It's either you adapt or you die. You adapt or you die. That's it. What you'll find if you study most millionaires is that they were millionaires and then broke and millionaires again. They've went broke before, which is to say that they had to figure it out again, which means they had to try new things. They had to learn. And that's what I'm in the process of now. The Google Corporation and the many persons who despise truth and freedom of speech, they've taken a huge income, and they've taken in also my team, right? So, right, I'd say the last 2.5 weeks, all I've done every day is study. That's it. And I've studied things that I haven't previously studied. I previously would have other people do it. And I've been studying so intensely and strategizing And what you'll see moving forward, you'll see a lot of changes. And then once all the all the things have been attempted and studied and reattempted and tested, then you'll see things stabilize again, and then things will become predictable. But you have to go through that uncertain period where you're figuring out how to fly the airplane. And in the midst of learning how to fly a brand new airplane, you might scratch it up. You might crash it a couple of times. That's okay. That's life. But remember, it's either you adapt or you die. And when for the hustlers, for the winners, when we say die, that means that you're no longer at the top. Everything that's not at the top is death. You hear me? So it's either you're going to get to the mountaintop or you're not. And for people who really are bosses, there's only one seat that fits you. It's the big seat. You hear me? It's the big chair. So if you're not in the big chair, no other chairs matter. No other chairs are good. And if you don't feel like that, you're not going to win. You're not going to hustle. That's all there is, you know. And I promise you, no matter what the game is, there's always someone trying to take your money. They're trying to steal from you. They're trying to take your position. They're trying to take your woman. Life is competition. And the moment you accept that, you embrace that, and you get to work, there's not a question of, oh, this is going to be difficult, or I don't want to change. It's like, this is what must be done. It might not be pleasant, but it is necessary. And I'm going to get after it, and I'm going to look like I like it. You hear me? I'm going to get after it so seriously, it's going to look like I'm enjoying it, even though I'm not. Yes, indeed. That is the nature of life. Thank you for that question. May I acknowledge 7. He writes, my mother continues to make bad choices in her life. Good thing it's not you, right? And won't submit to any form of governance except the U.S. government, typical. Should money or a system that generates capital efficiently be the final authority on who has the authority to enforce truth? Well, truth has never mattered. And I've said before that the only experience of justice, or the approximation thereof, is that which is created by good men. Good men are the ones that make you feel like the world is fair or feel like there is justice. And unlike some things you've been taught, that Jesus is the good man, you know, the guy who turns the other cheek, the guy who's like accepts everything, you know, this conception of Jesus that modern liberal Christians have, you know, that's not the truth. In fact, you'll find that to be a good man on a planet that has men who are bad men, you must be able to pick up the sword. And where you cannot pick up the sword and utilize the sword, which is to say to exercise force as appropriate, then this place will inevitably be a place that is unpredictable, unruly, uncivilized. And that's what a lot of us are dealing with in our households, because you have an unruly person, an unruly being there that will not submit to anyone. And the government's effort to take all power, they allow this psychopath to behave in this way because this psychopath empowers the government, because they appeal to the government. They create need for the government. Come on now. Come on now. I got to speak in coded language out here. The truth is not allowed anymore. So I hope you guys are getting it. Yes, indeed. May I acknowledge Sulaiman writes, peace of the saints. I emailed you a question from Kenyatta. Gives his email address, which I'm not going to repeat. I'll take a look at it shortly. Shout out to Muhammad writes 2 questions. Number 1, how would you go about raising and teaching confidence in a young black child that isn't raised amongst other blacks? Well, number 1, I actually think it's quite important to be raised around some who look like you, right? If you're a white kid and you're raised among all blacks, that probably is not going to be very pleasant. If you're a black kid and you're raised around all whites, that's for sure not going to be pleasant. No one wants to be, no one can thrive when they're overly minoritized. You must be able to see your image reflected. Because that which is dominant, we associate with power and, you know, numerical superiority has meaning. It's an inherent understanding. Strength in numbers, in other words. The opposite being weakness and lack of numbers. So it's important that your white child or black child or Asian child or what have you be around some who look like them. So that's number 1. Number 2 is certainly teaching them the right parts of their history. And then number 3, teaching them a framework through which they can understand the world. And to this end, I'm actually creating I don't even want to call it a course, because I don't want that to underplay what it is. It's a guide. It's a full guide to life as a black human, because I do believe the blacks need like a specific guide for this, only in as much as the whole planet Earth hates you. And that's demonstrated. Like, there's certain people who, certain small group of people, they claim everyone hates them. They're constantly being the victim, even though they're the aggressor and they're the most vicious of people today. The blacks, you just look at the evidence. Everybody hates them. It's very clear. Like, they're not favored by anybody. Like, by anybody, I mean like any group. Like, there's no group that's like, hey, we like them. And you're asking an important question, because most blacks do not have self-esteem, whether it's on an individual basis or it's on based on their identity, greatly in lack. He writes, he's amongst Arabs and recently got him to stop sagging, age 7. Good Lord. Sagging at age 7? That's insanity. Yeah, my advice stays consistent. Mohammed writes, is PayPal still a good place to send tuition? Seems to be working fine, and I appreciate your support. And for those of you who don't want to use Venmo or PayPal, there's a Stripe link in the description, which works just as well as anything else, especially if you're international. He writes, thank you for all that you do, Mr. Burton. I'm 30, but must support. Will join Patreon soon, and we welcome you. And if you all are able, I'd advise you to use thesassin.com, THESASN.com. Click join, and the reason for that, it's the exact same as Patreon, except I own it. And so that allows us to not have to suffer censorship, because we have experienced censorship on Patreon. And as a man of principle, and I can assure you my principle has cost me far too much, it's cost my family quite a bit as well, that I exited Patreon largely. I told people to, instead of going onto Patreon, go onto the Assassin, which is, we're still putting up all the content on Patreon. You won't miss out on anything. It cut revenue by 40% because a lot of people got off of Patreon, but they didn't get onto the Assassin. And that's okay. I realized that was going to happen as a businessman. I knew in advance that was going to happen, but the doing business with good people, doing business with those who respect the truth, doing business with those who will be long-term good partners is much more important to me than getting, fill in the blank amount of money in the short term with Patreon or with people who don't really respect the movement. There are many people who are fans and they enjoy the content, but I'm really about the people who are serious, because as I remind you all, I never came here to become a celebrity. I think there's a lot of people that go into acting and entertainment to become celebrities. They weren't favored as children. They were picked on, made fun of. I was always favored my whole life. I don't have any need to be admired. I'm an introvert. In fact, that's why I live on a plantation away from people, because I'm a very peaceful individual. I don't need people around admiring me. The reason I come out to speak is such that I might share some things that I know for sure, and I might be one who can organize people so that we can all enjoy a better life, unfettered by government control, not victim of constant warring or the theft of our money to engage in such wars. Yes, indeed. Let's take a look, if you all don't mind. I have a couple things that I'd like to take a look at with you, if you'd permit me. And I thank you all for supporting the work. You can continue to send in your comments, questions, size, tuition below. Take a look at this. This is from a network called Weon, which definitely, First Post. I get some of these places confused because they use some of the same commentators who have heavy accents and speak terrible English, but they cover the important news. But we must know that almost all of these outlets are biased, and I'll try my best to identify it as it surfaces.
And now let's talk about Ukraine and the US.
So here's the question. Will the United States, and I wish they would put government. I really do, because I find it increasingly embarrassing to say that I'm an American, because I am so out of line with the actions of the government. And that's not a new thing with Donald Trump. That has been something that has been true since George Bush. So they need to say American government, because we don't condone this. The American people, in fact, I've traveled around the world, of the peoples of the earth, I find the American people to be good people, like positive, open-minded, good people, helpful, unless you're in New York. So they're pretty good people. They're not the smartest people. Now, I have to admit that in terms of being educated and conveying intelligence, the Americans are certainly not top of the heap. But in terms of kindness, they're way toward the top of the heap in terms of like fun-loving, open to experience, energetic, optimistic. They're toward the top of the heap. But in education and intelligence, definitely not. But anyways. Will the United States government help Ukraine? Well, this is silly. The United States government is already helping Ukraine. That's ridiculous. And then it says help Ukraine target Russia's energy sector. Well, again, the United States has already been doing that. Well, the only real question, I said this years ago, literally years ago, I stated that when the special military operation started, I say that Putin is not a monster. In fact, he's a weakling. He should have started this campaigning long time ago when the Minsk agreements were violated. The United States, using NATO as its instrument, and in fact, Europe is guilty as well. They've expanded NATO, which is a hostile military alliance. They've expanded it endlessly against what was agreed upon. The Russian state has moved slowly. And in fact, many of the and mind you, for people like this, like, don't ask me questions in the general chat. You see everyone else is using the information below to send in their questions and comments. If you didn't know, I believe it might be pinned. If it's not, I'll tell you guys again. We answer from the people who send in $20 or more because, number one, there's thousands of people watching. And then number two, it lets us know who's serious. So if you be respectful of the fact that other people are serious about what they're saying. Anyways, as I was pointing out earlier, when Putin started his special military operation, I thought it was too late. And also, I knew that he would be not being aggressive enough. He really should have utilized blitzkrieg, which would have been appropriate. It would have, saved time and money for everyone involved. And further, it would have prevented future incursions. And yes, this is an incursion. And NATO has absorbed a number of nation states that really should be within the within the Russian sphere of influence as their former Soviet satellite countries. In fact, many of them I've been to, and a good number of them have a significant number of Russian speakers who are not Russians, right? Even the small ones like Latvia, for example, significant number of Russians there, significant number of Russian speakers who are not Russian at all. They have no Russian blood. In fact, some of them don't like Russians. They do like the language. They speak it fluently and have great respect for Russian humor and sarcasm. But they're not Russians. They're Latvians. And this is a story that you can retell of many of the surrounding countries, whether we're talking about Georgia, which is, in fact, the place where Joseph Stalin is from, or Joseph Jugashvili. Look at this psychopath. We got so many psychopaths. By the way, if you're unsubbing, nobody cares. Just leave. You're trying to like lead a revolution. Literally, nobody cares. Just leave. You're not important. We're in an era where so many people want to feel important. I'm here to tell you, you're not important. Okay. I know your mom probably made you feel very comfortable and confident, and you're not important. You're nobody. You're an ant. Leave, please. Thank you. And that's what we all are, right? Like, let's just be the ant that we are. Stop trying so hard. Anyways, as I was saying, you had countries like Georgia, Uzbekistan, various other countries that most Americans can't point out on a map, surely couldn't tell you the capital of them. They, in many cases, admittedly benefited greatly from being a part of the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was not a colonial experience, kind of in what you saw the Europeans do to Africa or the murderous regimes that they executed in the Americas. It was radically different from that. Doesn't mean it was nice, but it was very helpful, developed infrastructure, education, and much else in many places that would have otherwise been backwaters to this day. And we see that NATO has gobbled up some of the countries that the Soviet Union really helped put on the map, develop, create basic social programs and infrastructure. And in some places, there's certain countries, I'm not going to name which one, it's kind of some trivia here, and I know because I'd considered buying real estate there, only to find out that almost all of the real estate, all of the people there live in places that they own. And that is a hangover from communism, which I'm no communist at all. And apparently Trump is a communist, and we can talk about that later. And somebody asked me why, somebody who's intelligent. You know that communists use state-planned economies, yes? They have central plans, and the government owns the means of production. Government owns what would be businesses, huh? Yes, come on. And this is what Trump is doing now, taking interest in lithium mining companies, taking interest in NVIDIA and saying, hey, give me 10% of that. It's very bizarre. It's very bizarre. It destroys true capitalism. And it also creates opportunity for more monopoly. Mind you, Google is a monopoly, needs to be broken apart. I do advocate for that. Anyways, As I was saying, these former Soviet Union countries were moved into NATO, which is extraordinary. And they did it for good reasons. America was offering a bunch of money and protection. Yes. So Russia should have been alarmed then. They moved slowly. And now everybody's in NATO. And Ukraine, being very strategic, also bordering them. That was kind of the last straw. But really, there should have been a last straw before that. Putin was forced to do something. But what he's doing, in my opinion, the way he's executing this war against a country that was never a power, right? It was like not a power in recent history. He's embarrassing himself. And he's also revealing his hand, revealing that he's not ruthless, that maybe Russian resolve is not what we thought it was. Maybe when Russia says there's a red line, maybe it's a pink line, or maybe it's not pink. Maybe it's just a fake line and we'll just cross it at will. You may remember at the beginning, it was said that from Russians that, if you attack Russia, if you attack within the Russian motherland, we have a nuclear doctrine that will come into play. Well, apparently it never came into play, and Russia's been getting attacked on a regular basis. So that was a lie. The lie detector test says that was a lie. And though the Russians, a lot of them I really admire and like, they speak a lot of truth, but this world is not about truth. This world is about power and money. Power and money. Those are different things, mind you. Like Sergei Lavrov, I like very much. I think he's a great representative of Russia. But, Russia's really only had one strong man, and he was called Joseph Stalin, the man of steel. And there was kind of something to that. And I think Russia was actually not getting played with during that era. They were taken seriously, and they were willing to do what it took. Part of why World War II was won. Putin has done well at dominating domestically, but in international affairs, I think he's done a fairly poor job. He's been impressive in the African theater, but really nowhere else. The Ukraine situation allows America to test out weapons, to get rid of old weapon systems, to weaken a country that our government considers an enemy, which is not really an enemy. I think it's just a good boogeyman for the military industrial complex. And one question I have for the white supremacists, psychopaths, who run our government and our think tanks is, why is Russia our enemy? And when I say our, I mean your enemy, the American government. Why are they the enemy? Help me understand. What have they done? Have they started any wars? You've blamed them for so many things, but I just haven't seen the evidence. Like, you tried to blame Russia for Syria, but I didn't see Russia causing issues in Syria. I saw Russia trying to stabilize Syria because the then leader, Bashar al-Assad, they were propping him up, right? So it seems sensible to prop up the existing leader, right? Like, that's called stability. And now who's running Syria? The Israelis and the Turks, not America. Come on now, pay attention. How's Russia so bad? Have they started a bunch of wars? Are they the ones who started bombing Iran? Are the Russians the ones who started bombing in Syria? Are the Russians the ones who bombed Qatar, an extraordinarily safe, peaceful place that was trying to drive up their tourist industry and diversify their economy further? Are the Russians the ones who are bombing Yemen? Are the Russians the ones who are threatening and posturing toward Egypt? Are the Russians the ones who have a greater Russia project where they're trying to gobble up other territories? No, that's not the Russians. Come on now. Come on now. Somebody explain why Russia is our enemy. And also, just side note, there are how many Russians in America? An insane number of Russians in America. Thought they were the boogeyman. Shouldn't we be keeping them out if they are the boogeyman? Oh, so many things don't add up, ladies and saints. You're being lied to. And the nature of the lies that you are being confronted with are so ludicrous. It is an insult to your intelligence. I promise you. They're that ludicrous, these lies. 7 writes, I'm trying to maintain a relationship with her, mother, but her erratic behavior, inconsistency, and unwillingness to yield to better ideas continues to compromise her, and I know that eventually she will try to place those burdens onto me. Thank you for, yeah, leave it alone, my boy. Leave it alone. That is the best thing for you, I promise you. And sometimes there are things that people would say are ruthless or heartless, and they're neither. They're not ruthless, nor are they heartless. They're merely what must be done. And it is the greatest of us who can do it quickly and without emotion. For emotion is not required in this situation. You've already assessed what is going on. She's an unruly person. She is a disrespectful person to herself and others, and her bad choices will yield negative outcomes that will come to affect you if you are in her midst. I've experienced the exact same thing, and I took the appropriate action. Shout out to Miguel. He writes, Peace of the Saints tuition from Sass in Houston. Shout out to Sass in Houston. Mouse will acknowledge. Dominic, he writes, Peace of the Saints tuition. I canceled my Patreon membership. Can you add a yearly option to thesassin.com? I bet I could, actually. Let me write that down. Okay, very good. Thank you for that suggestion. And shout out to all the folks who are actually members. It's always my absolute pleasure when I have the honor of meeting you all. I also acknowledge Roderick, comes in by PayPal supporting the work. Shout out to Frank, came back. He writes, my friend says he doesn't care about digital ID because he doesn't see what will change because of it. I can't even say that I'm terribly familiar with digital ID. When I was in the Middle East, in Oman, was it Oman? It was either Oman or Qatar. It's hard to remember because I travel so much and sometimes I leave countries very quickly, but I was looking for real estate in Oman and Qatar. And one of them had a digital ID, and it was actually quite funny because the police had pulled up on me. I want to say it was Oman. They had pulled up on me after I had finished working out, and I got a jump rope around my neck. I'm covered in sweat, and I'm in running shoes. That's all I got. And I got a hotel key on me. And these goofy rascals, and the Middle East is a whole different kind of place, I promise you. And these goofy rascals, kind of like brown Arabs, pull up on me. And I have no doubt that they single me out because I'm black. And, you know, at some level, yes, it's racist. And at another level, it's just most of the blacks they see are poor because they're Africans. It just is what it is. It's just the truth of the matter. So anyways, a nice little mix of racism and classism. They pull up on me. They say, hey, give me your ID. And I say, I am exercising. I don't have my ID. Then they say, well, you have your phone, so show us your ID. I say, I don't have a picture of my passport. They're like, your ID, we need your ID. I was like, yeah, I'm not from here, buddy. I think they thought I was like a worker there or a laborer there. I don't know. I was like, I don't have my ID and you're bothering me. They're like, what? I was like, yes, you're bothering me. Leave me alone. I finished exercising. I think that they were shocked at the way that I was coming at them with a lack of respect. So I think that they were starting to realize, like, oh, like, bro's definitely not from here because he doesn't give any Fs. And I'm just more so like, bro, I'm covered in sweat. Like, stop bothering me. Go away. And then they like, well, show us your ID. And I was like, I'm not showing you anything. I kept walking. And I think they're kind of like, damn, well, either we can arrest them or just stop bothering them. So I guess we'll just stop bothering them. They just drove off. Anyways, the digital ID, you know, it's another thing that probably should be resisted. But that would be along with a variety of other things, biometrics and your personal data being stored and the lack of consumer protections in the United States. It's just one of many things, digital currencies, and even the fact that the governments of the world got into cryptocurrency when in fact cryptocurrency was an effort to get away from governmental control. And, you know, with my crypto account, which I almost never use until recently, I'd gotten a message from the one of the exchanges that I've used previously. And I owned a property in Maryland. And it said, hey, due to your residency in Maryland, you haven't accessed this particular exchange and you do have money in the exchange. If you don't access it within a month, we're going to seize the asset because of X, Y, and Z. And I was like, what kind of law is that? You basically said if I don't access my bank account within every 5 months that the government gets to take the money. What? But again, this is the whole issue. Crypto was supposed to be crypto. What is that prefix about? Crypto. What is cryptography? What is encryption? Private. It's not supposed to be government. It's not supposed to be fiat. Huh? For those of you who do use crypto, there's a Bitcoin address right there. It's also in the description. you can use that to support. But yeah, I think that these are all things to be resisted. But to resist effectively, we must be together. We have to do it together. We have to be united. And that's why I can tell people don't understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. Everything I've said has come to pass. You've heard me saying half a decade ago, we're in revolutionary times. That's when I started YouTube. First day, we're in revolutionary times. But I've been saying that since before then. So I saw it gathering. I saw things crumbling. And I told you that we have to be able to meet in person because it's so easy to make someone disappear off of the internet. Come on. Come on. Anyways. He says, how would a digital ID system be different from what we have now? Well, anything that's digital is easier to track, harder to convey. So the suggestion is that, if you're not doing anything wrong, why does any of this matter? If you're not doing anything wrong, why do you need crypto? If you're not doing anything wrong, well, these are the simple-minded people who forget that in the context of a wicked government, the laws themselves are evil. And so I always remind people, Martin Luther King was in jail. Who's the other fellow in South Africa? Mandela. Nelson Mandela was in jail for a long time. So, slavery was legal. So your assumption that the American government or any government, because the law is the law, that doesn't mean that it's ethical, it's good, it's upright, or helpful. That being the case, if the government is wicked, then the good man becomes instantly the outlaw, and the outlaw or revolutionary or would-be revolutionary does need some means to be able to face the government. Come on now. If you study revolution, for example, Ernesto Che Guevara de la Serna, there was a time that he was fomenting revolution throughout Latin America, and he had to go undercover. And he, in fact, had to pluck out his hairs on the top of his head, shave it, then pluck some of them, and then leave the hair on the side, put on some baggy pants and an old dress shirt, and portray himself as an older man, hunched over with a pair of spectacles. And in his movements through various countries, he even ended up in Africa, he had to get fake documents. It's easier to forge documents, simpler perhaps than maybe digital ones. But when you have documents, say like you have a physical passport, theoretically the United States couldn't track your passport. But if you have a digital passport, the United States can track your digital passport. And I can tell you all of these devices are constantly listening to you. You should be scared. I close my computer, my MacBook Pro, and I'll have on some Bose headphones, AirPods, and they'll say connected. And I'm like, to what? It's connected to my MacBook, because even though it's off and closed, it's still awake, it's still connected, it's still listening, it's still on the internet, it's still putting out Bluetooth frequency. Come on. Yes. So I've also said from the beginning that you do not want to be an individual unto yourself. You need to be a part of something. And this person's gone promoting coins. You're up out of here. You're gone, buddy. So you don't want to be unto yourself. You need to be a part of a community. That's the only way you can be protected. I said there's money and then there's power. Money is one thing. People think money is power, but that's not true. Money can be utilized for power, but money is not power. I'll give you an example. Many of the Russians have had their foreign assets seized, their financial assets. I believe it's like $300 billion worth of assets, which removes the integrity from the international banking system. It's pathetic. Honestly, it's disgusting. And they have all that money, but they don't have the power to hold on to it. You see, people say the American empire is falling. Well, at some level, yes, but at some level, no, because as long as there's military power and they're willing to use it, and we have devils running the country always, so they're always willing to use it. That's our European heritage here. So as long as we have the military advanced weapons and we're going to use them, then there will be the most important thing, which is power. Power is more important than money, because if you have power, you can take money. You can just take it. If you have power and you need gold, you're like, oh, do the Africans still have gold? Now it's ours. The Africans, they have diamonds? Now it's ours. Well, just take it. We got the guns. What's more valuable, guns or diamonds? Well, you might say diamonds, but I'm going to go ahead and say guns, because guns can get diamonds. Diamonds, well, they can get guns. It has happened, but I think you get my point. I think you get my point. Shout out to Irvin supporting the work. Came in via Venmo. Writes, Peace of the Saints, tuition. Shout out to the real ones. I also acknowledge Brad. Writes, neighborhood kids saw me exercising outside and stopped to join. The ism is for the kids. I'm trying to tell you, man. Absolutely. I acknowledge Mario. Writes, tuition. Shout out to Mario. I also acknowledge the gentleman came in by PayPal earlier. Here's the email that he sent. He writes, Peace of the Saints. This is my first time contributing tuition. Wow. Shout out to you. He writes, so repaying what I owe. Apologies if this is off topic, but I recently finished reading The Black Box, which is this fine book right here. He writes, I couldn't put it down. In your book, you tell the story of how a partner at a law firm recommended that you pursue an MBA instead of a law degree. That's correct. Guy was a millionaire, verified. He writes, you often mention how you have always followed the advice of mentors and those older than you. That's correct. I never understood those people who have oppositional defiant disorder. Like I always, if someone's an older person and they seem to care, I listen. And it's profited me greatly. He writes, given this, I'm curious as to the reason you chose an M.Ed instead of an MBA. Would you an M.Ed instead, and how do you think an MBA would have changed your trajectory? Thank you. That's a very good question. So I didn't choose a master's in education. In fact, I'll just recount this for you. And thank you for your question. So number one, when I was coming out of university, I was going to pursue law school, actually. And I heard from a second person, and this person was a law professor. I walked into a Starbucks, and I saw a white woman who probably was a Jewish woman. She had, curly hair, and this profession has a lot of Jewish folks in it. And she had so many stacks of paper on the table. I said, oh, what's up with all the paper? And she says, oh, I'm a law professor. I said, oh, okay, well, I just got into this and this and this and this law school. I'm thinking about going to this one. And she says, oh, wow, you must be really smart. Those are all very competitive. Sit down. So I sit down. And she says, I just want you to know I am a law professor. And I've observed over the last couple of years that the profession is contracting. And you must be a smart young man because you got into fine law schools. And even the partners, the guys who are highly paid, they're not retiring. They're working longer. So they're not getting out of the way for young guys like you to advance. She's like, you got LegalZoom and you got these things doing the work of clerks. And she's like, it's not the future. I don't recommend it. She's like, listen to me. I'm a law professor. I don't recommend it. And I said, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And at the time, I'd wanted to help people. You guys may notice this consistently. Unfortunately, perhaps it was my Christian upbringing. They teach you the foolish idea of sacrificing yourself for others. And clearly, I've not gotten over this, though I know better. That's why I wrote a 3-sentence Bible. Be yourself. Be good to yourself. Be good to good people. Be yourself. I'm very good at that. Be good to yourself. Sometimes I fail at that because be good to good people. Sometimes I'm good to people who are not good people. Sometimes I'm good to people who are strangers. These are my follies. And sometimes I'm good to people at the expense of myself. This is Christian foolishness. This is stupidity. You should not do that. Because, for example, I'm not going to give you an example. Hey, you can see yourself. But I wanted to help people, and I am certain that a proper education is transformative. If someone can get a proper education, then the world is limitless for them. And that being the case, I went into a program called Teach for America, and it put me into a town called Baltimore, where you have extraordinary levels of poverty in all of its varieties. You have a city that's overwhelmingly black, 10% of the population on heroin, which is a very hard drug. Many of the kids being orphans, essentially, or raised by their incompetent old grandparents. And I knew there was a lot of good I could do. Many of them never had a father, even fewer male figures in that environment than you'd think. So I wanted to Teach for America, and a requirement of Teach for America was that you at least be pursuing a master's degree while you're teaching. So that is what led me to it. It was a something that I've not been able to get out of my soul, which is a driving force to help people, a driving force to educate. And to answer your question directly, do I think an MBA would have served me better? Not only would an MBA have served me better, I would have suffered a lot less. I suffered in many ways in that environment there in Baltimore as a teacher, some of which I didn't even put in my book because I don't even like to be reminded of it myself. So an MBA, I probably would have been richer, faster. I would have suffered a lot less emotionally and physically. And my name would have been bigger sooner. If I could do it again, I would take the MBA. If I had a child, I would have them take the MBA. All signs point to the MBA. Now, between those two, I take the MBA, but understand this. An MBA is not a very valuable degree, in my opinion. I say that because I've lectured MBA students. I've been invited and paid to lecture at top business schools. If you follow me on Instagram, and I don't know if it's still up, it may have been archived, but if you've been following me for a while, you'll see, you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see Northwestern, you'll see fill in the blank business school, and you'll see a check. They cut me a check to come in and lecture and teach them business. So I figured it out well enough without going to business school. And most of the people who do go to business school, they're getting an education on how to be effective in a large existing corporation, which they'll have a lot of trouble getting a job at unless they're like well connected and they look the right way. So I don't recommend it mostly. Thank you for that question. Carrying on.
And now let's talk about Ukraine and the US. Just months ago, they seemed to be on a collision course. Trump was signaling clearly if Ukraine wanted to keep fighting Russia, it might have to do so without American support. Russia seemed to have Trump's ear. And the US president engaged in a public...
This is all nonsense because these are all pump fakes. What they're saying is irrelevant, especially when you're dealing with liars, when you're dealing with our political class. I should say when you're dealing with the political class anywhere in the world, you're dealing with liars. Part of that is because the nature of these particular people is dishonest. But in addition, the average person is one who wants to be lied to, especially the women. And so what can you do? You have to deal with the public, unfortunately. Apparently you have to lie until things get so bad that they must deal with the truth.
Spat with Ukraine's leader, Volodymyr Zelensky. He told him in front of the world's press, without us, you don't have the cards. Today, that message...
Now, here's the crazy thing. The fact that Vladimir Zelensky, and also it's worth noting that this Zelensky fellow, you guys know who he really identifies with. You know why he has so much power. You know why he can argue with the head of state of the most powerful country in the world. You know why he can argue with the American piggy bank and experience no consequences and get more money. You all know why.
Message has changed. Trump now seems ready to give Kiev some aces. The US is set to provide Ukraine with intelligence that will help Kiev strike deep inside Russia.
Now, this is funny because we all know that the United States has always been providing intelligence weapons, spare parts, know-how, mercenaries, funding for mercenaries. So they're just increasing it. And right now they're putting out the news to see how the American public will take it. Trump's approval ratings are in the toilet. So with him angling to be a dictator, like increasingly it doesn't matter. So bro's about to do what he's going to do.
Fresh reports have emerged. Apparently, Trump has approved a new policy. For the first time, US agencies and the Pentagon will share targeting data, and this data will help Ukraine launch long-range missiles. And what will Ukraine's target be? Russia's energy infrastructure, the refineries, pipelines, power stations, facilities.
Now, here's a bit of comedy, ladies and saints. You may remember years ago, I spoke on this. Putin said attacking our energy infrastructure is a red line. But it was one of several red lines that they had identified, and many of them have already been crossed. The comedy is if Putin did what has already been necessary, he'll do it late when he's barely hanging on to power and Russia is at great risk. And it'll be a little demo, and then the world will act like he's the bad guy. That's the only way you can get these devils to back off. But anyways, this is something that we knew was coming. And from a strategic standpoint, it's really the only option that the Ukrainians have. But we should also know that the concept of Ukrainian really doesn't exist now, does it? There will be no more Ukrainians because so many of their men have been sent to the slaughter. Some of them have fled. The women left long ago and apparently care nothing for the men, because I've encountered many of them. They just seem to be very carefree, enjoying their lives in the various capitals of Europe. Really, it's extraordinary. They shouldn't have been allowed to leave because many of them are feminists. They should have been had to stay there and fight.
That fuel the Kremlin's war effort. The aim is to strip Moscow's revenue and to weaken its ability to sustain the war. Now, why is this move significant? The US has helped you.
Now, what is the likelihood that Russia will allow all or any significant part of their energy infrastructure to continue to be destroyed, which would thereby cripple not only their economy, but their ability to defend themselves? So what happens is that the Russians are pushed more quickly to dire response. And it's actually quite strange, and it lets you know when I say these people are devils, they are devils, because you have to ask yourself, well, what's the end goal here? Just even if we reduce it from the level of nation state to individual, we're talking about resources, i.e. money. So on an individual level, have we not seen true crime stories where people murder to get resources, money? You know, they murder to get the life insurance money. Or guys murder the chick because she's getting alimony or child support just to protect their resources. That's on an individual level. So on a nation state level, and nations are rational actors, except America because we're controlled by another nation. But nations are generally rational actors. What is the likelihood that Russia would allow their energy infrastructure to be put into shambles and thereby crippling them today and in the significantly into the future? Is just not sensible. So you force their hand, and at the point in which Russia is forced, and they've already been using conventional weapons, we're going to see that they're going to have to escalate. You know, they're going to reach in their bag deeper into their repertoire and use something more significant to get the Ukrainians to back off. And then there will be the stalemate wherein you have a Cold War would ensue between a greatly weakened Russia and a Western bloc. But here's the comedy, because you have the Chinese behemoth sitting on the sidelines, gobbling up all of the spoils. The Trump administration is cowardly and won't confront the Chinese. For example, they're so hyped on the idea that there have been drones flying into Polish airspace and other, NATO countries. Drones that did not attack. Maybe they're gathering reconnaissance or some, maybe they didn't even exist. But one thing we know for sure is there was a Chinese spy balloon over the United States, and the U.S. did nothing, and they will do nothing because they're terrified of the Chinese. for good reason. Not only because the Chinese have grown strong, but because America has grown weak. And so they fail to confront the true enemy, the powerful enemy. And all the while they weaken Russia, not realizing that China is picking up the scraps and just growing stronger. So it's just really a bit of comedy. These devils will provide for their own doing. Their own evil instinct will hurt them. They will hurt themselves, is what I'm pointing out to you. May I acknowledge, shout out to Marcos. All right, Peace of the Saints, tuition for the upcoming live. Sass in San Antonio, appreciate you. May I also acknowledge Caleb writes, tuition, Peace of the Saints. Shout out to Kaylin writes, like everything you said about adaptation, Saint. Oh, okay, got you. For you, you went through this, and when you survived those 2 hurricanes in Puerto Rico as well, right? Meaning this isn't the first time you overcame such tribulations, bro. I'm trying to tell you, man. Listen, and that's the whole concept of the black box. Shout out to Mr. Naeem. He writes, it occurs to me that after you said you'd email me the link to that live stream I mentioned last stream, I failed to do the sensible thing and share my email address. Yes, well, now you'll have to remind me of what live stream you're referring to. In fact, just me being here today has been very difficult just due to the schedule requirements I've had, and Saints coming in town as well, leadership team. Some guys came early, so just want to be able to accommodate and also get my own personal business items done. May I acknowledge Mr. Canton, supporting the work, came in via Venmo, writes, Peace of the Saints. Shout out to Clay, supporting the work. Good to see you again, Clay. Also acknowledge Nathaniel. He writes, Peace of the Saints. How would you maintain a relationship with your kids while being separated from their mother and living in the United States while they are living in Europe? My concern is that they will feel abandoned from the lack of presence and seek it from the wrong person. Well, all you can do is your best. That's it. That's it. So it will be wise to acknowledge what is within your locus of control, and those things that are not within your locus of control, you have to accept it and just try your best to execute on what you can do. Full stop. And remember, the 3 Sentence Bible, it is a great guide. Be yourself, be good to yourself, be good to good people. So the other question as well is, okay, so in terms of being good to yourself, not to be selfish, but what's next for you? So accept what is, focus on the things you can control, dismiss the things that you cannot control. There's no need to worry about them. Make a great design for yourself. And if you can change the circumstances that exist, do. May I acknowledge, it says PayPal is holding your payments pending. Okay. Emmanuel came and supported the work via Venmo. Appreciate you. May I also acknowledge Mr. Bex writes, keep going. Sir, yes, sir. I appreciate that. Shout out to all the people who support the work. I know you guys are the good people of the earth. Carrying on.
Ukraine before. It remains Kiev's biggest military backer, but this support was mostly around weapon supplies. Intelligence sharing was limited. Now,
Sure
Trump
was.
seems to be changing the
Stop it.
rules. The new intelligence means Ukraine can strike deeper targets with more precision. The US is also weighing new weapons. It is considering selling missiles like Tomahawks and Barracudas, and these can strike long.
And this is all a scam when it says the United States is considering selling. The United States, is the United States a company? No. So what they really should be saying is Boeing or Lockheed Martin or Raytheon or fill in the blank with some company you may have never heard of. They're selling very expensive weapons. And here's the kicker. Well, where are they getting the money? Well, Ukraine doesn't have money, so the United States is doing the most evil thing on earth, and this is how they steal from you. So this is the scam. It's a long con, or I guess a short con, a short blatant con at this point. The government steals $1 from the citizen. They call it taxes. And instead of reallocating that dollar to infrastructure, bridges, roads, public health, public education, they say that the Ukrainians who have never done anything for you and never will, we need to send this dollar to Ukraine. So they loan the money to Ukraine or give the money to Ukraine. And then they tell the Ukrainians, well, you need weapons. And then they sell the weapon to Ukraine and then take the dollar back. But the dollar doesn't go back to the American government. which could give it back to the American citizen, it goes to the American corporation called Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Boeing. And that's how you get scammed. So they could just create a shortcut and allow the American citizen to just empty out their pockets into the coffers of the weapons manufacturers. And by weapons manufacturers, I mean the people who create killing machines, like the opposite of a doctor, Dr. Doom.
Range targets. There is no final decision yet, but it appears Washington is willing to raise the stakes.
Always.
With this intelligence, Ukraine can plan deep strikes, not just near the front line, but hundreds of miles inside Russia. Already, Ukraine has struck Russia's energy facilities. But this new data will make those strikes far more damaging. It may force Russia to divert air defenses and perhaps pressure its energy exports. Now, how is Russia responding to this?
Now, you know, one thing that is curious is that there's been no condemnation. There's been no moral discussion. There's been no reference to violating anything, violating past agreements, violating decency, escalating the war, right? I mean, this is an escalation, no doubt, right? There's kind of been no commentary on that. You may notice. I think it's just worth pointing out to you all.
So far, Moscow's reaction has been restrained.
Typical.
Kremlin says it has been studying the reports. European allies have welcomed the move. Countries like Germany are investing in Ukraine's defenses. They have committed $350 million, and this is to boost Ukraine's strike capacity. Europe sees three priorities: air defenses, holding the front line, and the ability to hit deep into Russia. For a smaller...
So what a reasonable person is asking is, well, how does this all end? Does Ukraine beat Russia? I mean, a question like that is as reasonable as asking, can this news anchor here, this brunette, can she beat Mike Tyson in a fight? No, she can't. So we can keep pumping her up full of steroids, but eventually she's going to get knocked out. So the question is, why pump her up full of steroids so that she can just get battered and every now and then she'll land a random punch, but it's not going to get the job done. She's just prolonging the abuse that she's going to suffer until she eventually gets, put to sleep. And the funny thing is that it's like no one has any regard for the blood of the everyday Ukrainian man. Maybe that's because he doesn't share the blood of Zelensky, because Zelensky he believes himself to have divine blood, if you know what I mean.
Army, like Ukraine's, taking the fight beyond the front is essential.
Hey, that looks really cool. I'm not going to lie. If anyone is watching, I don't care what country, if you're going to let me bust off some of those surface-to-air missiles or whatever you got, I'm down.
This shift marks a big change for Trump.
Man, that looks cool, man. I would love to bust some of those off, especially if I can aim them at my enemies. But if I could just shoot them just in general, I'll shoot them for fun.
Since taking office in January, he tried to broker a ceasefire. He offered Putin economic incentives to end the invasion. But those talks stalled. Putin did not respond. The negotiations collapsed. Now, Trump is taking a different course. He recently posted online that Ukraine could recover.
Now, how ridiculous is this? Bro wrote, I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form. This is World War III talk. This is World War III because Putin's already been embarrassed because of the way the war has gone. It was a special military operation, should have already been over. And then secondly, Ukraine is nobody. Ukraine's not a power. Maybe if it was Germany or France, one of the former colonial powers, some group of people who really know how to wage war. This is Ukraine. They should have been treated like an old maid servant back in the day. You dig? The old 1-2, in and out. But the fact of the matter is that Russia's not going to give up territory. And the war will inevitably, as a result, become more intense. And the idea that Ukraine can regain everything, which would thereby invalidate all of the Russian efforts, lives, and domestic destabilization they've suffered, making it all for no reason. Well, I don't think Putin's that stupid to take the L in the war. So he's going to fight harder. And when Trump says, well, with all of Europe, we can help Ukraine win. Okay. All of Europe, that sounds familiar. That sounds like world war. Now, the Europeans are so arrogant, always have been such an arrogant, wicked people, that when they say world war, it really is just the Europeans doing it. And they bring in everyone else to, experience the carnage. But it's mostly just a European affair, but they call it world war, right? I mean, what were the South Africans doing? Actually, South Africa is run by Europeans. But, what were the Namibians doing during this time, right? Well, I guess Namibia was a German colony. Okay, so I think you guys get the point. But anyways, point is this. It's becoming a world war. And the Donald and the people who control the Donald are pushing it toward that. Unfortunate, sad to see this happen again, because you think there's a such thing as human progress, but there is not. Human beings don't change a lot. I mean, come on. People will believe in, my God gave me this, and my God's better than your God, and your God has no proof. My God has all the proof. They believe in things from hundreds of years ago with no evidence. They believe in, come on. Do you think human beings are advancing? Please stop it.
Cover all of its territory at the United.
Which is to say, the wickedness, the carnage, the slavery, the colonization, it doesn't die. It doesn't stop. It relocates. It reforms. It looks different, but it continues.
Nations, but he was even more blunt.
It's not making Russia look good. It's making them look bad. No matter what happens from here on out, this was something that should have taken a matter of days, certainly less than a week. And they've been fighting for 3.5 years.
That's ironic, because that's precisely what I said earlier. Maybe Trump follows the ism. I wouldn't be surprised. But I said blitzkrieg, which is lightning war. Russia should have eradicated them quickly. Now, here's the thing. Trump is one to talk because, how long were the Americans in Afghanistan and then caught the L? How did the Americans do against Vietnam, which is a backwater, still is, not a developed place, but they still beat the Americans? How did the Americans do in Iraq? Did they win? That doesn't look like a W to me, especially when ISIS and things like that surface. So where has America won a war recently? Somebody let me know. So the fact of the matter is that I think Trump is accurate, but it's also the pot calling the kettle black.
Killing anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000.
Who's this broad in the pink shirt? And again, I'm not getting into it.
Young soldiers, mostly soldiers, on both sides, every single week, from 5,000 to 7,000 dead young people.
It's insane how bro's acting like he cares about dead people. These folks are such liars. We know there's one particular place, country I cannot name, that is taking the lives of many children and women. He doesn't care. Shout out to Trayvon. He writes, the How to Build Your Financial Base video uploaded to the Marquette on Business YouTube channel is golden. Peace of Saints. I appreciate you. And I was giving out a lot of free game on that one. Honestly, that one, low key, that one should not have even been given to the people. But, I'm a generous man. Thank you. And shout out to Trayvon. I appreciate you supporting and having been with me a long time. Shout out to the real ones. And I have the pleasure of meeting him. He was at last Saints Weekend. And shout out to all of you who will be at Saints Weekend coming up shortly. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a great time.
Trump is clearly changing his tone. It remains to be seen if he follows up with his words with tangible support on the battlefield for Ukraine.
They already have tangible support, love.
But either way, Trump's statements show Ukraine may have more cards to play. Most importantly, it has been a green light from America to keep striking deep inside Russian territory. For Moscow, the shift may...
Yeah, okay. So here's the funny thing. That whole thing was not very informative. It was just a whole bunch of what if and maybe this and maybe that. Now, here's some propaganda I'd like to share with you all. Now, mind you, it's propaganda. Fox News is an utterly ridiculous network, as is CNN, as is anything you could name within the United States. I mean, honestly, I don't even take news halfway serious unless it's foreign at this point. It's like you can scarcely get an American media outlet to say anything reasonable. But this is insane. This one just from 5 hours ago, entitled NATO Under Siege. Really? Under siege? Well, Marquette, maybe you're not as smart as you think. What does siege mean? Are you misunderstanding the word siege? Let's see. Siege. I'm pretty sure siege, they have to be using this word incorrectly. What does siege mean? I'm going to show you guys the definition of it too, because I'd like you all to be able to see this. Let's see. Open up a new tab here. I'm going to type in the word siege. NATO under siege. I want to go to dictionary.com actually. Let me type in the word dictionary. A military operation in which enemy forces surround a town or building, cut off essential supplies with the aim of compelling the surrender. Okay, so number one, a military operation. Is Russia running a military operation against NATO? Let me enlarge that so you guys can see it. I'm going to say that one more time. Is Russia running a military operation against NATO? No, they're not. Further, if they were, are they surrounding? Are they surrounding NATO? I don't even think that's actually possible. They'd have to be in various seas. They'd have to be widely deployed. And cutting off essential supplies. Well, no, I was actually just in Europe a few weeks ago. So this is a total lie and an exaggeration. It is Fox News propaganda and lies. But it's such a high-level lie that really it shouldn't be permitted. Completely unethical. Let's hear what these rascals have to say. So it reads, Russian aggression spreads across borders. Let's see what the aggression is.
Welcome back. Increasing
and I don't know whose cousin this woman is, but she looks like a utter ragdoll. She looks like she should be somewhere trying to get her some fentanyl.
Aggression from Russia and its latest drone attack on Kyiv hitting its energy infrastructure, which led to a blackout at a nearby Chernobyl.
Okay, now notice she's mentioning an attack on Kyiv. So this has nothing to do with the headline. They're in an active state of war. So that's number one. Secondly, she's using the term Chernobyl, which people who have a basic education associate with, nuclear catastrophe. So that's very strategic.
Nuclear plant. Ukrainian President Zelensky accusing Russia of posing a threat now to global security.
Oh, he's
Denmark,
already said that
meanwhile,
before.
warning that the Kremlin is waging a hybrid war on Europe.
Okay. So because Denmark, mind you, I just have to remind people, these little European countries are completely irrelevant. We should almost tell them to sit down and shut up. Denmark, what's the population of Denmark? Okay, true story, guys. I just want you guys to see this because many of you guys have way more respect for Europe than you should. And that's because Europeans are very arrogant and they market really well. Like, these are the greatest marketers on earth because you think like these people matter. You think like their countries matter, and they don't. Like, Marquette, what do you mean? It's Denmark. Denmark said something. Okay, just real quick. Denmark population. I'm going to be generous. I'm just going to round it up to 6 million. Okay, Denmark's population is 6 million. Great. Okay, so how about Los Angeles? Okay, 4 million. Okay, so that's just a city. That's just one city. How about New York? Oh, got him. Okay, so New York and again, New York is just a city. So the population of New York is way bigger than the population of Denmark. And New York, again, is a city. Denmark is a small, irrelevant country. They're just a group of arrogant Europeans that should sit down and shut up. They don't even have enough population to contend with Russia. So why are you causing issues? Russia. Okay. Right. So Russia's 144 million and Denmark is rounded up to 6 million. Come on, sit down and shut up. All right. Thank you. Appreciate you. The Europeans, it's like when you say Denmark and it's a country, you kind of think like, oh, okay, they matter. Then it's like, oh, actually, no, you don't matter. Sit down and shut up, please. It's above your pay grade here. Why are we even reporting on what Denmark said? There are people on social media with a bigger fan base than the whole country of Denmark. Drone incursions. But you're talking about military siege. Where's the siege? What did the drone do? Did it attack somebody? Oh, hold on one second. Let me get you guys the right. Give me a second. Let me get you guys back on the right tab. I don't know if you guys were able to hear what this bleach blonde was saying. Again, white women, please have some decency. If you're not a blonde, just be yourself, okay? Be yourself. It looks disgusting when you get your hair bleached blonde and then you don't have enough money to keep it consistent. And then we see those dark roots. Shout out to Patrick, right? Sending question by email. Okay, let's see what you got, champ. Question that's not arrived. Okay, we'll check back on you. So anyways, back to this chick with the big glasses, who looks pale and then has a terrible hairdo. She really looks like somebody's ragged aunt who hangs out in the casino and then uses Fent on her spare time.
Poland, Romania, and Estonia. The EU also weighing the transfer of hundreds of billions. Leaders are gathering to discuss Russia's increased drone incursions over NATO.
Incursions. She's trying to make it sound ominous. They're incursions.
Allies, including the Danish capital, Poland, Romania, and Estonia. The EU also...
Is Romania in NATO? Man, everybody's in NATO. I better join NATO. Everybody's in NATO. Goodness.
The transfer of hundreds of billions of dollars in frozen Russian money.
Now, that was important. Hundreds of billions of dollars in frozen Russian money. So when you seize assets, what you're doing is you're removing the integrity of the international banking system. And I think that this is pretty disgusting and pathetic because international commerce and trade is an important thing. And just because America and the Western devils are creating fake reasons to go to war to feed the military industrial complex, I don't think we should also destroy the dollar and the international trade system at the same time. I think that's a bit inconsiderate, frankly. Just a bit too inconsiderate for my liking.
Want that transfer to Ukraine, which Moscow is now describing as
insanity.
Theft.
That is.
I
theft.
raised the
That is
issue with
definitely
European
theft.
Central Bank President Christine.
That's precisely what it is. Theft is stealing, and in this case, they're stealing money. It's a classic case of theft. The strange thing too is that they're stealing the money of Russians and they're giving it to Ukrainians to offset the expense of a war that NATO itself provoked. Outrageous. I mean, these people have not changed at all. They're still very colonial in their mentality and behavior. If they want it, they take it. There's no consequences for them. And the only thing that is worse than the behavior of the Europeans is the fact that the Arabs sit around thinking that things are going to be better or that they're friends with certain countries when they're not. And then the goofy Africans have not gotten it in their heads to hurry up and create a nuclear bomb to protect themselves. I mean, it's like you would think after being colonized, they'd be like very cautious about these people. You know, the ones who colonize them, idiots, total idiots. But what can you do? Marquettism is for the kids. Marquettism saves lives. We need to spread the ism in Africa.
In Lagarde recently, watch. Can you
now look? I mean, can you guys see my cursor? Do you see my cursor here? Look at her hair. It is just disgusting. You got all this dark brown, and then you got these random blonde streaks. Now, it's one of those things where it's like, damn, shorty, like not even money can make you look civilized. You know, and that's when they say money can't buy class. You know, some people, you just can't clean them up. You can't clean them up. It's unfortunate. But again, I want you guys to know, and gentlemen, when you encounter a woman who looks ridiculous, meaning she's wearing too much makeup or she blew up her lips and blew up her body parts, that is a sign of mental illness. Something is not well with her. I promise you this woman is a total nut in her personal life.
demand that $300 billion in Russian money.
And then look at this other woman's profile. Doesn't she look familiar? Look at the shape of her schnoz. Does she not look familiar? You guys know.
Does not get back to Putin, and you use that to rebuild Ukraine.
So far,
it's insane how she's not questioning if this is ethical or like, is it stealing? Like, what if it was the other way around? And was that Putin's money, or were those Russian citizens? Are the Russian citizens at war with you? Like, and listen to how this arrogant devil starts speaking in response.
we've done is make sure that that money stays frozen and is not disposed of by Russia. The proceeds of that money, the interest, if you
They've not even said whose money it is.
will, generated by the principal that is sitting there, is used in order to reimburse the loans granted by the EU and the
Now that's funny. It's saying they're going to use the money to reimburse loans by the EU and the United States. Now this is comedy. Did Russia take out those loans? No. Those were monies that were given to Ukraine. Who's supposed to repay the loan? Ukraine is. Is that Ukrainian money? No, it's not. So do you see the scam? It's extraordinary. And it all goes back to, oh, this is all about money. And there's certain people who believe themselves to be special. They're not special. They have one God, and the God sometimes is green, American US dollar. And other times the God is multicolored, various colors, never black, but various colors. Whatever color the currency is that they're pursuing at that moment. Sometimes the God is gold. Huh?
US. My hope, my strong hope, is that as much of that money as possible is used in the negotiations and that all of it is used to reconstruct Ukraine.
Why, though? You would have never had to reconstruct Ukraine if you didn't try to make it a part of NATO, or if you never expanded all the other countries into NATO. We never get to ask the basic question, why is Russia the enemy? Here's another question. Why won't you let Russia into NATO? Why not? Why does Russia have to be the enemy? Basic questions.
But
this is not my decision.
Right.
I'm just the president of the central bank.
Well, you are
Yeah, okay.
among the most influential voices in Europe, if not the
Imagine one of the most powerful people in Europe is a random female. Extraordinary fall.
most economically influential voice in Europe. So shouldn't you be able to say this money will not get back to Russia?
Mm-hmm.
What about sanctions? Would sanctions on Russia work?
You know, it's really weird. She's appealing to a single person, almost like a dictator. And she's saying, shouldn't you be able to say? Wow. Whatever happened to laws? Whatever happened to, like, are there no laws, regulations, banking regulations? Come on. And again, it underscores the importance of what cryptocurrency was supposed to be, decentralized. Huh? Come on now.
Maria, you're right to establish a link between the sanctions and the freezing of that of those funds. And the sanctions have to be imposed and have to be constantly renewed and reinforced if necessary in order to force people to the negotiation table and to extract a peace agreement. But all I can do is give my views to the leaders of Europe in order for them to make the decisions.
Joining me now is the Heritage Foundation Vice President of National Security, Victoria Coates. Victoria, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. I want to get your take on this spiking aggression from Russia.
Spiking aggression. It's strange how they just lie to us like we're idiots. Like, what is the spiking aggression? What is new that Russia has done in the last year that they weren't doing before? What's new? They've not attacked any other country except the one that they're at war with. That's number one. Here's another kicker. This is a kicker for me. I just typed in a ChatGPT. Now, mind you, ChatGPT is flawed. There's just no doubt about that. But I was just curious as to what it would say. Let's take a look. I just typed in a basic query. I know some of you guys are imbeciles and you think that ChatGPT gives the correct answer, but let's just see what it says. It's an aggregator. Let's see. I put, why does the U.S. government view Russia as an enemy? U.S. government views Russia as an adversary, sometimes even using the term enemy because of a long history. Well, history is not a reason, right, today. Okay. History of geopolitical rivalry, clashing national interests, got to see what those are, and more recent actions that Washington perceives as threats. Okay, well, let's see. Let's dig in. Okay, so the Cold War is over, so that all doesn't matter. Geopolitical rivalry. Well, what's going on? What do you mean? Let's see. The U.S. and Russia often backed opposing sides in conflicts. Well, the real question is, well, why would either of them be backing any side in the conflict? Well, if the place is called Syria, Syria's like right next to Russia, but Syria's like very, very far away from the U.S. So the question should be like, why is the U.S. even involved in that? Because it's so far away. Then Ukraine is literally next door to Russia. So Russia should have a very serious interest in Ukraine, but it's so far away from the United States. So the only thing is that the United States is trying to dominate the world is what this is saying. That Russia stands in the way of the U.S. dominating all of Europe, apparently. Okay, got it. Got it. And all this other stuff can't be validated. Got it. Oh, look at this. Authoritarian versus democratic model. This is irrelevant. That's so stupid. What does it matter what another country decides to use as a form of government? That's so silly. So ChatGPT can't give you an answer because there's only BS. There's no real answer. That's the whole point here, ladies and saints. Patrick writes, thank you, Saint. How long do you think this phase lasts before Russia eventually ends things with a final move? Iran war move. Well, Putin's weak. He's weak. Russia's weak. And they're playing the game like they're weak. In terms of utilizing a nuke, I told them to use it a long time ago. I think they'll wait way too long. So unfortunately, I think the war has another 2 years before Putin presses the button. Shout out to Mr. Ruffin writes, peace and saints, tuition, Sass in Miami. I appreciate you. Shout out to Sass in Miami. I also acknowledge Kyle with the baller alert. He writes, change has a price. Few of us are willing to pay. Honored to pay the price with you. Peace and saints, I appreciate you. Shout out to the real ones. Shout out to the real ones. We outside with it. You dig? And shout out to my leaders who are coming and we'll be planning. We will be planning. Now back to what this psychopath, mop top, old, just raunchy looking chick. Ew.
I mean, drones, and even if they weren't armed drones, into Poland, Romania, Estonia.
I was flying a
How
drone
do you view
today.
this?
Well, good morning, Maria. Good to be with you. I think it's not a coincidence.
Imagine we're listening to old women talk about war. This is bizarre. This is bizarre. We're listening to old ladies talk about war. Come on, is this not bizarre to anybody? Old ladies? They can't even win a fist fight talking about war. I just want to know how many of them have operated like a tank or repaired a military vehicle, or they probably can't even change their own oil. They're talking about war. Insanity. This is a cartoon. We're living in a cartoon.
That this kind of aggression really ramped up after
What
Putin got
aggression are you
back from
talking about,
Beijing
dear?
last month. And so I think what you see here is a concerted effort between China and Russia to keep the United States and Europe engaged in Ukraine, distracted, perhaps you might say, by Ukraine. And I thought that was very interesting what Christine looked.
This woman, honestly, if you look like her, you need to have some brains. I'm still waiting for her to say something intelligent. I'm gonna just close my eyes and listen.
Was saying about the frozen Russian assets. I mean, it is high time for Europe to get after this. They are working on their 19th package of sanctions. We're looking at the 4th anniversary of this war next February. They have to take stronger action. What they've done so far hasn't worked. And so, yes, she can make her recommendations to European leaders, but those leaders need to act on the recommendations.
It's funny how they're in such a rush to end this war. The truth is they're not in a rush to end any war. That's the truth. The Europeans are warlike people. They're not in a rush to end any war. In fact, they're always in a rush to start a new war. That's their nature, and all of the history plays out. Yeah, absolutely. You use those two. That one, the water, because it's like fancy design, gets all over the floor. So those two are the best ones. Absolutely. Need anything else? Cool, for sure. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, Europeans, funny people.
And this is the level.
And mind you, when I say Europeans, I'm talking about their leadership class. Just like when I say America or the United States, sometimes it might sound like I'm talking about Americans. I'm talking about the American leadership class, which is similarly rotten, as is, unfortunately, African leaders. Save the people in the Sahel. They're doing pretty well. Shout out to Ibrahim Traore. I'm waiting for the invite, my boy. I'm waiting for the invite. And also shout out to Benin. Shout out to Benin.
That will bring Putin to the table.
Or Benin, however you like to say that.
And bring an end to this horrible war.
This horrible
So do you
war.
want to see NATO allies respond? Because I spoke with the president of Poland just the other day here in studio.
And it's sad. Shout out, I really appreciate Poland. And I would hate to see Poland get bulldozed again because they got did dirty in World War II. You heard me? I would hate to see that happen to them again because I like Poland and I like Polish people. Shout out to Teddy, came through supporting the work rights. It's the least I can do, big homie. I appreciate you. Shout out to the real ones. He's been rocking with me for a long time. Loyalty is something that increasingly is rare.
And we talked about the $300 billion in money, but we also talked about his assessment of drones coming into Polish airspace by Russia. Watch this.
Into drones coming into it's funny how they try to make it seem like something happened. Like, was there an attack? No. It might not have even happened low key. You can't believe anything these people say. But if it did, worst case scenario, they were checking to see what was going on. It was spying blatantly, apparently. Shout out to Haidar, just became a member. He just paid for his entire year of membership. Shout out to you. We appreciate you. And shout out to the ones who already know. They know they're really about this thing of ours, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a great community. I encourage you all to join up if you haven't. No better time than the present. May I also acknowledge Mr. Miller, just became a member. Also, shout out to Frank. Use the Stripe link in the description to support. Also acknowledge Mr. Lewis, just became a member. I see Irvin renewed. Shout out to Harold. Use the Stripe link to support. Came in a strong way. And may I also acknowledge Patrick as well, just became a member. Let's get back to this word.
Poland shot down Russian drones after Russia's airspace violation. How many drones have you witnessed, and what is your reaction to this?
We are talking about 21 drones. I have no doubt that this action had been planned by the Russian Federation. Surely this was not a mistake.
Young guy, shout out to them. A very young president over there. I don't recommend it. I tend to favor wisdom at the highest office, but I just don't think he's making great decisions for Poland. And one of the things I've admired about the Polish state and the society is that they've really maintained a very, fairly homogenous, strong culture, honorable, fit, good-looking people. They respect their elders. Nice traditional society, really. Radically different. Even in their capital cities, it's an okay place to be. Whereas if you go to other capital cities throughout the world, it's just not really impressive. I mean, Doha and Qatar is lovely before Israel did what they did. But it's just sad to see the Polish playing this game. Their leadership is now corrupt officially.
Our eastern border is under the migratory pressure, so we are in the midst of a hybrid war. The Baltic Sea, which...
Wait, did he say a hybrid war? That's what the hell does that even mean? That must be a terrible translation. And further, I would also like to state that it is disgusting in this era to have a woman translate a man's voice. It's degrading, just as it wouldn't be sensible to have a man translate a woman's voice. Just find a man, or use AI. This is disgusting.
Our eastern border is under the migratory pressure, so we are in the midst of a hybrid war. The Baltic Sea, which joins a couple of European countries, is a place where there are regular provocations carried out by the Russian side.
Okay, so he's a puppet talking about provocations. Bro, stop it. And, I respect Poland too much to speak ill of Poland right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and just let him slide right now.
We witnessed the violation of our airspace, so we can say that this is a regular testing of Poland's defensive capabilities and of the whole of NATO.
These devils are ready for bloodshed, boy. Shout out to Constantine sends intuition via Venmo. May I also acknowledge Ezekiel writes, peace of saints to it. I appreciate you. Shout out to the real ones. May I also acknowledge Heels in. Good to see you in here. Carrying on. Boy, these devils want some war, and they're using the media right now to get you guys hyped up and make you think that there's a big Russian monster threat. like Russia literally has not attacked anyone except Ukraine. And that's a much better record than the United States. That's a much better record than the other country that no one can ever speak of or criticize.
Violates NATO airspace, it is absolutely in our rights to shoot down those drones or those planes, whatever it may be. And
now she said, or those planes. We've been talking about drones this whole time. What do you mean planes? What are you talking about? Come on.
he was very clear about that. That from Slovakia and Hungary.
Okay, come on, Grandma.
I'm sorry, those countries aren't big enough to consume the quantity.
Okay, so what she's basically saying is that Europe is still using Russian energy, which they are. And shout to Frank. He writes, Traoré has waived visa fees for African citizens to visit his country. What do you think about that move? I think it's okay, but it's basic. It's not terribly meaningful. It's a good thing. But I think that what happens with regimes like Traoré's is that sometimes in their effort to be nationalistic or to be culturally proud, sometimes they make missteps that will hurt them economically. I'm not talking about this one. There was a politician, I forget which country it was. It was a Swahili-speaking country. And the politician says, we're going to do away with Swahili and we're going to have the national language in schools be French. And I looked at the comments on Instagram just to see how stupid people are. And they're like, oh my God, you need to have it as Swahili. This is Africa. Yes, it is Africa, you fool. However, French is widely spoken, especially in Africa. And it's easier to get certain materials that are needed for advanced education, whether we're talking about medicine, medical training for physicians, or physics, the important industries, engineering, AI. If the books are in English, the knowledge is in English and French, then you'd be wiser to train your students in that language as opposed to Swahili. And I've been in East Africa, and many of the East Africans don't speak Swahili well, and it's not standardized. This damn cord, I'm sorry. I got to stop playing with that cord. Can you guys confirm that you can hear me? I apologize. Shame on me. Confirm that you can hear me if you'd be so kind. I see we have some mentally ill folks in the chat. And again, I will forward my regular, they're not even people, they're bots. And just to prove that they're bots, I always invite them to come on screen. I'll be happy to have a debate with you. All you have to do is turn on your camera and not curse. And no one ever comes on. And that's because they're bots. They're fake people. Anyways.
Of Russian energy that Europe continues to lap up. And yes, it's cheap. And yes, they say they need it to run their industrial base. But they've got to get off of that energy. And then, that is what is going to squeeze Europe and squeeze Russia rather, and make Europe
Freudian
stronger.
Slip.
So that, I think, is the very powerful message the president had last week at the United Nations.
What Grandma failed to say is where the Europeans are going to replace that energy. Like, how are they going to replace the energy that they're getting from Russia? That's what she failed to say. And she also had a Freudian slip, which is to say that the Europeans will be squeezed. And if it was so easy to get off of Russian energy, perhaps they would have done it already. What are they waiting on, right?
But challenge Europe to stand up.
And also, the Europeans are looking to steal Russian assets, their foreign holdings. That being the case, so you're using Russian energy, so you're cool enough with Russia to use their energy to heat your homes, but you're going to steal all their assets and currency. Huh, interesting. So I guess you like to play as long as the game benefits you. You'll play with Russia. Got it. Fascinating.
And actually bring Russia to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fact that Europeans are still buying Russian oil, but they'll say, look, this is a global market where, we don't know that we're doing it directly. But you're right. I mean, President Trump has spoken about this so many times. Let me move on to Israel because it is pushing forward.
This is how you can tell someone is not masculine and also has low IQ. The usage of multiple emojis. And also, when you say the East Africans will never accept French, well, yeah, if they were never colonized by the French, I don't expect that they should because it would be a burden. But like some of these places, they speak English, so they don't need French. And so they should double down on getting better at English. Also, silly African, if you would like to come on and speak, I will permit you to do so.
With its full force offensive in Gaza, asking residents to leave the area. Meanwhile, leaders are awaiting a response from Hamas on President Trump's 20-point peace plan, which, of course, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu agreed to at the White House on Monday. Victoria, what's your reaction here? Do you?
We're talking about things we can't talk about. No comment. Ladies and saints, I'll give you a little bit of time to send in your comments, questions as we wind down. And for those of you who have serious questions, you don't need to ask them in the chat. You can simply send it in like everyone else did via Venmo or PayPal, or using the link in the description. Don't dishonor yourself by making yourself look like a fool or look like someone who doesn't respect the decorum here, or thinks that you should be able to ask questions while everyone else has to pay what they owe. So don't make yourself look like an idiot, please. Self-respect, in other words, self-respect. And also when you write your questions, if you'd be kind enough to write in the best English you can. So for example, gonna, G-O-N-N-A, that is not a word. You might be better off writing going to, G-O-I-N-G, space, T-O, going to. So represent yourself as best you can. Have some dignity and respect. And just while we're giving general public announcements, because I realize this is a good opportunity to teach, and sometimes people don't know. If you go into a restaurant, fast food restaurant, ice cream shop, doesn't matter. I hear people so often saying, oh, let me get, or can I get? No, the proper way to ask for something is to politely state, may I have? May I have? That is correct. You might hear your parents saying this, and if you are ever out with your parents and you hear them say, can I get, or let me get, you should know that you were not raised right. And it's okay. Your parents did the best that they could, and they didn't do a good job. It happens. So I just told you what is correct. That is the best. Use that. I mean, even my own mother, I even catch her every now and then saying, let me get, and I'm just disgusted and embarrassed because that's not proper. That's not the way to conduct yourself. Patrick, I would love to answer your question. All I do is I ask that you come on, just ask your question like a normal adult, man to man, and then we can have a conversation about it. I'd be more than happy to answer that. So good question, Patrick. So just let me know. I'll share the link and just come on. We'll talk about it. We will talk about it. I'll give Patrick a little bit of time to see if he can get together his white supremacist courage. Mostly they're all scared. Mostly they're terrified. I don't blame them. We saw what happened to old boy. I don't blame them. While he's getting his courage together, I'll give you guys a little bit more and then we're going to get up out of here. Let's see if this is accurate. So Mojo writes 10 disturbing parallels between 1930s Germany and 2020s America. Let's see what they have to say. I already feel like this is about to be fraudulent as hell, but let's just check it out.
Thousands, hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants, many of them prisoners. They're taking up your health care. They're taking up your space in school.
So this is already not a parallel, because one thing that people don't realize is that the concept of borders has been radically different in the past than it is today. And that's because government control was far less. You know, fella says YouTube unsubscribed him. Yes, YouTube has unsubscribed many people. And that is precisely why we encourage you to join at thesassin.com, THESASN.com. Click join. That's if you're serious. You know, if you just come here for entertainment, get your entertainment, carry on. But if you want to be a part of a community, have greater levels of joy, connectedness, people to work out with, socialize with, be a part of a tribe, have greater levels of protection, we welcome you. And it's not for everybody. It's just for the good peoples of the earth.
Schools are taking up your hospital.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today,
from the danger of communism.
Presidential election.
Why is Shorty wearing these baggy pants? Curious. She has nice hair, though. Shout out to her.
The BBC projects that he's crossed the threshold of 270 electoral college votes needed with a win.
Oh, this is old.
big deal about it. With that in mind, It could be argued that Trump's comeback campaign after 2020 mirrors Hitler's reemergence from the wreckage of the botched beer hall putsch of 1920.
That was so idiotic of a comparison. So Trump was an elected official. Adolf Hitler was getting out of prison. Trump built an entire political party with an accompanying ideology. Trump joined a party and has no ideology. Adolf Hitler is the most dynamic speaker the world has seen. Trump is one of the worst speakers the world has seen. This is already just complete Looney Tunes, but I'm here for it.
The national revolution has begun. The building is surrounded. No one may leave. Any trouble, you will be shot.
Both capitalized on.
The funny thing is, I couldn't even stomach that movie. It was such a joke. Now, granted, Hitler's an unattractive, puny man with narrow shoulders, but the clown that they picked to portray him was just pathetic, and it just made it suggest that any old rascal could have romanced the German people, which is not the case. And as much as the German people of that time were the most advanced in Europe, the most educated, advanced in physics, they had the most well-renowned philosophers and composers. So just the idea that any rascal could have been successful in that context is just hard to believe, frankly. And it was clearly an effort of certain kinds of people to portray Adolf as more pathetic than he actually was. Not to say that he was an impressive fellow. All of them were a bit of a motley crew of weirdos, except Goering. You know, he was a proper war hero, a good-looking Aryan gentleman, but then he got injured during the war and developed a morphine addiction, and he was quite overweight. But before that, he was like a ace pilot. But anyways, such is life.
On feelings of mass unrest as well as
But one thing I will tell you is that Hitler's ethnic origin or racial origin, I should say ethnic origin, I don't know. Look at that boy's, look at his schnoz. Look at his schnoz. I'm going to enlarge that for you. Like I've always said, his nose does not look very Aryan. Looks a little sus to me. I'm going to throw that out there. So I'm just let y'all do with that what you will. Anyways, ladies and saints, may I acknowledge, shout out to Joshua, just became a member at thesassin.com. That's THESASN.com. Ladies and saints, it has been absolutely my pleasure to have this time to fellowship with you all. It's been more enjoyable than I could have even imagined at such a busy, challenging time in life. And, you know, I thank those of you who have been here, and who I'm talking to are those of you who are members, those of you who support my work. You mean everything. I really appreciate you all. Until next time, peace to the saints.